welcome back to the Knights of Christendom. I'm your host, Frank. Tonight, I'm joined by my good friends Anthony and Neil once again, and another roundtable edition. And what an exciting time! The 267th Pope of the Catholic Church was just elected a couple days ago, Cardinal Prevost. He came out. He was quite a surprise to everybody. When his name was first announced from the balcony, everybody's kind of looking at themselves like, who's this? Who's this? Turns out not a whole lot of information other than we got this Pope that attended the 2005 World Series out between the Houston Astros and the Chicago White Sox. And the first American-born Pope was elected. Lots of excitement everywhere, really, mixed with some skepticism, of course, as well, too. People are trying to figure out Pope Leo the 14th is the name that he took, and people are trying to figure out who is he, where did he come from, what does he believe. Not a whole lot of information out there. Anthony, I'll tell you, it was kind of the same thing. You go to that Novus Ordo EW twin crowd. They're whooping it up. This is a great moment in church history. You go to the other side, the traditionalists are a little bit more skeptical. The sedecantivists are saying, give me 24 hours and I'll crack the code of how he's a fake pope. I mean,
give me 24.
So, listen, the opinions are all over the place, but I'll tell you, just the tradition, the beauty of what the Catholic Church does, all the eyes of the world were on Rome. And as Catholics, we are privileged because nobody else has that kind of a spotlight in the eyes of the world other than we Catholics, my friend.
Yeah. I'm thinking the Seds, they're really, give me 24 hours is about accurate, because I don't think they expected this. And they're sticking to their thesis, of course, but they're going to need maybe more than 24 or 48 to figure it out. Yeah, I'm optimistic, and I think that we just see where this goes, honestly. Uh, I know that Dr. Taylor Marshall was did a whole live feed where he was saying repeatedly that he submitted to him, and that he believed that that this could be an opportunity for healing with the traditionalists in America. And I think there was some speculation that maybe he celebrated. I know he did do the Novus Ordo Mass in Latin, and I believe Ad Orientem as well. But there was some speculation that perhaps he had celebrated, the Tridentine Mass prior to. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
Neil, your thoughts?
Well, I've been asked this more than once about just like at work and from other people, my family. Oh, Neil, what do you think? Um, like as if everyone's expecting me to say something horrible, I guess. Uh, I mean, of course, I'm cautious just because of what we've been through the past so many years. A lot has gone on. A lot have. I'm trying to be charitable. I don't want to sound like the bad guy all the time. It's just that a lot of less than desirable people have been placed into positions of power.
Yeah.
So there's concern. At the same time, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. What is he going to do? How is he going to address certain things? I'm more concerned with what letters is he gonna write? What homilies is he gonna give and that kind of thing. I'd actually be kind of happy if he did like the popes of old to a degree and just uh, didn't get involved in a lot of things in the world, because in the past you didn't even hear about what the Pope was saying or doing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if the Pope so much as burps, you hear about it in the news. So I'd be kind of happy if he just kind of laid low a little. I hate to say it that way, but just like handle the church basically.
Yeah.
I did
Handle the
hear,
church and
yeah,
don't be like getting on planes and doing big things. Handle what's
I,
going on in the Vatican.
Yeah, I did hear an interesting thing, Neil. I don't know if it was from before he was Pope or since he's been elected, but he was talking about American media and how it basically has a vice grip essentially on people's minds.
Yeah.
And one of the things he was saying, if whatever they're supporting happens to line up with church teaching, they're very happy to talk about the church, but they will turn on the church in a moment's
Hmm.
notice.
Yeah.
And so I saw E. Michael Jones posted something about this. And there's been some speculation since he gave that homily where he said that we are God's chosen people. Very
Hmm.
interesting wording.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's a good start. I hope
Yeah,
there's follow through, I guess. Like,
absolutely.
um, and I hope he's more he continues that kind of language. He's a bit more forward, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, and like I said, at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's a lot going on within the church itself. Like, handle it, like take care of what needs to be taken care of. It doesn't have to be in the news everywhere. It doesn't have to be big speeches and political stuff. It's like, say a few things, but mostly focus on getting things right and fixed.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I think like you, Neil, I'm a little bit cautious, somewhat hopeful, but cautious at the
Yeah.
same time to see what he comes out with here, especially early on. Some people are saying, well, we had a honeymoon period with Francis, and Francis kind of lay low for the first 2 or 3 months, and then he
Hmm.
started sending out some doozies, and then all of a sudden there's this troubled period in the church really began that lasted again for 11, 12 years. And so I just think it's going to come down to if he's really willing to reach out to the traditionalist wing and what he's going to do. Because I got to be honest with you about something. Okay. Listen, I'm Novus Ordo because I got no other options where I'm at. The
Hmm.
Novus Ordo mass needs to be made more remnant if we're gonna keep it.
Hmm.
Because there's deep problems with the Novus Ordo mass, in my opinion. I think young men are becoming bored with it. The music is terrible. They've taken out
Hmm.
all the reverence, they've taken out the kneelers, they've taken everything else. So there needs to be a shift away from this idea. Oh, we're going to talk about global warming and the poor. Okay, important stuff. I don't got a problem with the Pope dealing with that, but we have to rebuild Christendom. We have to rebuild the
Yeah.
faith because we are collapsing in the West morally, right? That Pew
Hmm.
study we talked about a few weeks ago. For every one convert we make into the Catholic Church, 8 are leaving right now. If the study is true, and granted, we'll probably have some problems with the methodology. Don't get me wrong of that study,
Hmm.
but
Who
there is.
owns Pew, by the way? Did we look into that?
I didn't look into it. Did you?
No, I did not. In fact, I'm going to look into it right now. But you know
Okay.
what? You know
I
what,
believe it's
Frank?
Protestants.
I talked to I talked to a friend of mine who he contacted me when he found out about who the Pope was. We talk every once in a while. And he was, this is a Protestant, and he was saying he heard that um Catholic Catholic Church has grown by like 20% or something in the United States.
Okay. See, that's interesting. So we're getting conflicting
Yeah.
reports. Anecdotally, I can't speak to it. I'm in part of the country that is considered missionary territory. Now, my church has grown because of migration. People are leaving the coastal areas, going more to the Midwest, inland to escape high housing costs and high living costs, things of that nature. So my church has grown, but I think we have to address some real issues here, Neil, in the church. I know you've gone to do you go to the traditional Latin Mass or do you go to Novus Ordo, Neil?
I guess mostly it's Novus Ordo, just because the Latin Mass is a little further away. It's not like an hour or nothing, but maybe about 30, 40 minutes. And my family mostly just wants to go to the Novus Ordo.
Why?
Um, they just like, I guess, the English, I guess. Well, plus I'll put it this way, that's all they've known, really, is the Noah's
Yeah.
Order. So they see the Latin Mass as the weird one, and like they kind of have it reversed, like as if like the Noah's Order is the norm and the Latin Mass is the odd duck. It's like, So just because like my wife and everything's been raised on that. And so I find it feels awkward to go to mass separately, you
Yeah.
know. So I tend to just go along with them, but in between there, when I can, I go to the Latin mass.
Right.
I'd like to go more. It's just trying to get the family to kind of come around to it.
Yeah, I get it. I guess my question for you is again, comparing and contrasting the traditional Latin Mass and Novus Ordo. Obviously, I think you would probably say the traditional is more reverent, but do you find issues with the Novus Ordo? Do you find yourself being distracted more?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I go to North Ordo, it's like it's so hard to get into a sense of prayer and a sense of I'm in sacred space. Um, it just feels like I'm just at a almost like a Protestant, like kind of like communal gathering almost, you know?
Yeah.
It
Um,
depends. Yeah, it depends on the Novus Ordo that you're going
well,
to,
well, it's like
right?
the
That's
one
the
I go
problem.
to, it's not like there's abuses going on. It's reverent.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just, I don't know. It's just the way it goes, and it's not out of the norms. It's the way the North Ordo is
Okay.
that it just has this sense of like, okay, I'm waiting for the priest to speak to me as if like I'm going to a game almost, like the announcer. Like, hey everybody, welcome. Okay, let's start now. And they would follow us in the Holy Spirit. I feel like he's almost performing to me, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas when I go to a Latin Mass, he hardly looks at me. He goes in, he goes up there, and I feel like he's going to a temple to offer sacrifice.
Okay.
And I am there with him doing that. And even though I may not understand all the words, I know I'm doing something sacred. And because of the all the moments of silence, I'm able to better go into a sense of prayer and meditation.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas in the Novus Ordo, it's like, okay, the hymns are horrible. Yeah, I mean, it's like, and like I said, it's not that they're bad hymns. The words are bad or anything. It's just that it has this sense of like a Protestant sing along. It's like you feel like you're singing along because you have to, like okay, participate. You're supposed to participate, and it's
Yeah.
like, can y'all? There's like in my head, I'm thinking, can everyone just shut up and pray?
Yeah.
Like I just want everyone to be quiet.
Well,
But it's like the
mhm.
nature of the Novus Ordo is no, everyone speak up.
Yeah. I had an incident at Mass this week, and I want you guys' opinion for this. And maybe it was wrong for me, but it was the moment of the Mass where we do the offering of peace, peace be with you,
Yeah.
And we had this beautiful Hispanic family next to us and lots of kids. I love seeing that. And when it was time to offer each other peace, they all walked over to us, my family, to, shake our hand or peace. And one of the little girls, I could tell, was very sick. She was sniffling. And lo and
Hmm.
behold, all of a sudden, me and my family came down sick this week. But in the process of that, after I noticed that, I told my kids right before, I think it might have been during the consecration. I hate saying this, but I told my kids, go to the bathroom, go wash your hands. That little girl was sick. Now it's a strange thing. Does the peace offering thing happen at the traditional Latin Mass? That's my question for you guys.
No,
Mm-mm.
No?
no, that
No,
was an
it's only,
invention for Novus Ordo.
yeah, in the traditional mass, it's only between the priest and
Okay.
the it takes place on the altar. It's I think we don't do that where I'm at in the ordinate, which was brought in under the Anglicans, the Anglicans that came in
Right.
to the church. We don't do that. And I just think that like if you look at it really the issue is like I think Pope Benedict was putting things back on track really, and I'm hoping that we're going to see the same thing with Pope Leo XIV here because of the way he's been celebrating Mass. If you looked at like the Novus Ordo and EWTN, I get the very same sense of the reverent mass that I do when I would attend the Latin mass, because they would do portions of it in Latin. Sometimes it's ad orientem. If not, they would at least have the cross on the altar. And so, but I've been to other Novus Ordo masses where it's, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
And the music is usually not great. And I'm not sure. I know hymnal, there's one company, if I'm not mistaken, that is run by some kind of organization that supports the homo agenda, I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that
Yeah,
again.
I thought I heard something about that. So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the hymns are actually written by Protestants.
yeah, okay. See, well, listen,
Like like in the
remember,
Gather hymnal, a lot of those songs are Protestant.
yeah, well,
See,
yeah,
in the ordinate where I'm at, that's the Anglican rite. The whole reason that well, it's not really a rite, it's still under the Roman rite, but the whole mission there is to help bring in Protestants. And so we will have some Protestant hymns, but it's nothing that goes against church teaching or anything like that. Um, and I don't know. I can see why they've done it, and there's a lot of people there that we know as a family that used to also attend the FSSP with us when we were over at Irving. So it's a very holy mass, and I do believe that the Novus Ordo could get there. I always wonder how much of it was just the rebellion of like generationally speaking, like
yeah.
yeah. So anyway,
Well,
go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
well, I know in my
Well, I mean,
church,
I'm saying I feel like the Noah's Ark can be done reverently, but I feel like the Latin Mass is always going to be superior as far as disposing people to be more open to grace. I
right.
feel like it's just that's the height of it. And I think Noah's Ark can come closer. It can be better. Um, I just don't think it's going to be able to get to the same level.
Yeah, listen, a few years back, we had a situation in my parish. Wanza, we had a gay priest. He wound up having a big expose in the New York Times about 3, 4 years after he came to our parish, and then he retired. And we had an LGBT bumper sticker in one of the offices in the rectory, whatever you want to call it there. And one of the songs at the time that we were playing was, I believe the title of the song was Wade in the Water, which was
Yeah, I know that.
it's a Negro spiritual.
Yeah.
It's a Negro spiritual, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with our Catholic faith, but it seems like we're going away from the beauty, the essence of the chant and everything that the church was at one time. And there seems to be a concerted effort, it seems like in the Novus Ordo at times, and it's frustrating to me, like we're running away from our pedigree, our heritage, our traditions, everything that made the Catholic faith, again, the moral background of the world. And it's frustrating to me, especially in an area where there isn't much options for me. But in the case of this Sunday, the situation where this little girl was sick and I could tell she was sick, I had my kids go to the bathroom, go wash their hands. My wife kind of didn't know what's going on. She's like, we're in the middle of consecration. I didn't know what was right or wrong, but I didn't want my family getting sick. Now we wound up getting sick anyways. But it's a strange scenario that I was in, and I didn't really know how to react in that moment. I don't know if I handled it right, if that was a sin or not to send my kids to the bathroom as the consecration was starting, because just
I'm I'm sure that everybody in the comments section will let you know. Um,
yeah, I know.
I just wanted to mention with what you brought up there, it's very interesting that I think the Novus Ordo kind of had the same intent that I mentioned earlier, which is that, we wanted to kind of help bring Protestants in, and we thought, well, maybe this might be the way to do it. And I think it's interesting that you have Gen Z and a lot of other people that are coming into the church and they specifically want the tradition. They're not interested in the Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Well, what you were saying, Frank. Even when I go to mass, I don't do the sign of peace. I just when it's coming time for that, I do praying hands, and I'll close my eyes and start saying the Jesus prayer.
Right.
Um, and most people, you know, they kind of understand what you're doing, and they kind of don't bother
Bother you.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
Now, if someone is going to like insist, like they'll touch my shoulder or something, well,
Yeah.
then yes. I mean, to be polite, I'll turn to them and nod my head.
Yeah.
But but generally speaking, that doesn't happen with me. Um, so that's kind of how I've
Okay.
gone about it. Just not get
Okay.
messed into it.
Yeah, it's interesting times we're living through in the church, and the different disagreements and the struggles that we have and trying to figure a lot of stuff out. So there you go. Okay. Anthony, would you like to lead us in the St. Michael's prayer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of heavenly hosts, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits whom prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls.
Amen.
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 The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Okay,
Mm.
it's great. Okay, so I'm cruising around X today, guys, and very fascinating. An ad comes up of fembots. At least that's what I call them, fembots. I remember Austin Powers back in the days. But anyways, well, apparently now we're having not only robots that look like real females. They're getting to a point where, according to this ad, these fembots, these robots that look like women, are becoming much more detailed and much more aesthetically appealing to men. And it shows an ad of a man walking down a row of robots with different looking fembots, some blondes, some brunettes, some shaped a little bit different than others. And he got to pick his robot, and he kissed her and held her hand and walked off for whatever price that fembot may cost a man. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I find this interesting. I've been arguing this for a while. Feminism has brought women to the brink of madness, right? Screeching feminist women now, right? We have a
Uh-huh.
society where women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces, 90% if they're college educated. Women are out there competing with men, trying to act like men, being even now more sexually active than men as part of this feminist liberal thing that's been happening over the past 40, 50 years as a result. There's a lot more what we would call wifey women out there, women that can actually make good wives from a traditional sense. Men have everything to lose now. In the courts, they can lose their everything they've built financially. They can lose their homes. They can lose their children. They can lose everything that there is because the courts always favor the women. It's a culture that's become much more hostile to men. Women have all the advantages. Women have everything to gain. Men have everything to lose. And now we have robots that are into the mix. And I'm thinking to myself, with so few women left out there, I don't say so few, but a good portion of women. Because listen, all you got to do is take out a certain percentage of women out of the population, and you're going to have a bunch of men that are alone. And what do? This is why men have incubated themselves in their rooms or cellars. They're watching porn or they're playing video games, right? They get a
There's
lot of critique for this, right? But there's no women out there or a shortage of women out there because women have gone crazy, guys. And here we have now a company offering, hey, you don't need a real woman. Here's a robot. She's beautiful. She's sexy. And she'll serve you. And you don't got to deal with the problems of real women and feminism. Guys, it's kind of a joke I made earlier to you guys, but I got a feeling this is going to become a real option for men pretty soon.
yeah. Just stay in your cellar with your fembot.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, all the perks, none of the downsides. I don't see a problem here.
Oh my gosh. It's
And
disgusting,
women,
man.
look,
Like I
look,
can't believe
feminists are going to be jealous. That's what they're gonna end up being jealous because they're going to realize they're not as useful as they think they are.
Yeah.
well, you know what the madness is with all of this is that we already have um machines that can grow babies and they're already using tech that will
Hmm.
let you choose eye color, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I could seriously see happening like in a dystopian type future within the next 20 years, like literally you could impregnate your fembot because it might be
Hmm.
carrying eggs or something, like this is, I mean, it's weird stuff, man. I mean, it's
Well, it's
it's
like
just so disordered.
this is like the another logical step, really, when you introduce contraceptives into society, because marriage is no longer about children.
Yeah.
It's just about getting your jollies off. Well, heck, I don't even need you for that. I got my fembot. So it's like, and on top of that, when you got a whole bunch of feminists say my body, my choice, well, guess what? My bank account, my choice. I'm going to pick the fembot over you because she ain't leaving me with half my stuff. She ain't going to make sure I can't see my kids. She ain't going to take everything and destroy my life. That's what you want to do. You want to be my competition. And then you want to take my stuff when you're unhappy. So how about you go ahead and live your life? I'm going to, pick my bank account, my choice, my body, my choice, pick my little fembot, and you can call me all the names you want, but I'm gonna be nice and happy in my nice big house because I ain't gotta pay for you, and I'll just take care of myself. And these liberal feminists are gonna realize they're in a tough spot when men finally go, I don't need or want you anymore. So
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to sit here and just say women are at fault, right? We all have a fallen nature, including men, and men have made some mistakes too. And I'll point to one of them, and that is women have been empowered in the way we have in the past 50, 60 years because men have allowed it. Men are the ones that
Yeah.
have the power to build and destroy civilization. Women don't have that. Even most of the jobs that women carry now, they're paper pushers, they're button pushers, they're office jobs, is what they are. It is the men that do the real hard work that builds civilization. Everything around us is built by men, not by women, right? There's a reason why, what is it? Less than 1% of women get into things like bricklaying, right? Women don't want to do those jobs. And I guess the disappointing part of this all with
I don't
feminism.
want them in those jobs either. I don't want to lay the bricks.
Hey, my father was a bricklayer, man. Tough job, let me tell you. But he made it. But he,
Well, look, I still have to build a house. I don't want the lady to show up and go, yeah, I'll build that brick wall for you.
there you go. There you
Listen,
go.
is your husband here?
Well, I guess the point I'm making is that all the power that women have assumed to turn our civilization mad, it is because men have allowed this to happen, and men, whether it's political correctness, whatever you want to call it, have set back and have allowed this to happen. Maybe again, that's the men that are sitting in their basements doing what they're doing on their own. But if men actually ever stood up to this stuff, women wouldn't have a chance. And that's where I kind of fault men there, Anthony.
Well, does this have to do with just egalitarianism in general
Yeah.
and liberalism? I mean, really? Doesn't it go back to that? Like
Yeah.
the idea of what Protestants did, just making marriage a contract rather than
Hmm.
a sacrament.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Once you had that, once contraceptives are introduced, you break the link between child rearing and marriage and sex, and now it's just about coupling.
Right.
So that means homosexuality. That means it's just a contract. It's just a piece of paper, really. It's designer babies if you have any.
Mhm.
It's in vitro fertilization. It's abortion. All of it logically follows from that. Um, that's one of the reasons there's so many good things to say about theology of the body, but one of the negative complaints about it has been that it kind of emphasizes um, the unitive aspect and kind of downplays the child part a little bit. It kind of shifts the what comes first and the primary, secondary purposes of marriage, and that's what society has done basically. Has just
Yeah.
said, well, that's over here at best,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
just about pleasure in myself.
yeah. I think if you look at a timeline of history, the pill was made over the counter in the United States in 1961. It wasn't long after that that divorce uh,
Hmm.
was made illegal, pornography made legal, pornography made legal, and then by the time we get into the 70s, shacking up out of wedlock becomes a norm. We get to the 80s and 90s, the divorce culture is starting to break everything down, but everything ultimately comes down from the pill being made over the counter, because what you have is you've distorted the relationship and the nature of men and women. That's part of the problem here. And I think this is why men have felt on the defensive now for a long time, because women control the sex market. Men control the relationship market. Men control the sex market. But
What's yeah.
yeah,
Well, what's interesting about it is, generationally speaking, it was Western men of the past that destroyed the sacrament of marriage, starting with King Henry first and foremost. But uh, so you can see why women they've really had it. Uh, Western men have failed women, period.
yeah.
And I think that it's very hard for men now to see that, because they are dealing with the things you're talking about, Frank. They are having to deal with feminism. And feminism, I think, is just a result of that, because women had to do what? Well, we're all autonomous individuals that had to empower themselves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think, as I said before, part of it is this individualism that we've stressed in the West now, primarily in America, this idea of individualism. And once you build a society based upon, again, materialistic ambitions and only that, where you set aside tradition, history, bloodline, true faith, that doesn't mean anything in America now, right? What we have in America is the promise of being these great consumers, embellishing in materialism to give us a wonderful, beautiful life in that regard. And yet, what's happened is we've lost our soul in the process. I'll go back to what happened to Italy after World War II, when the new constitution was being ratified, the new democracy being formed. One of the debates that they were having is, what do we do about the Lateran Accords? That was the deal that Mussolini cut with the church to make Italy a Catholic integralist nation, right? Well, of course, everybody thought that the communists in this negotiation will want the Lateran Accords, let's get rid of those because that's a violation of church and state, things of that nature. But that's not what Togliatti, the lead Stalinist in Italy, said. He goes, you can have the Lateran Accords. Give me marriage. Let's take away the indissolubility of marriage from the Constitution that the fascists put in, and I got everything I want. And that's what he got. They kept the Lateran Accords in, but they abolished the indissolubility of marriage. And within 20, 30 years, it was a stack of cards that all fell. Abortion, contraception, all of it. The moment you tinker with marriage is the moment you destroy civilization. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say that if you look at the Russian Revolution or the French Revolution historically, the interesting thing at that time is they had a lot of orphans because they didn't have birth control. In some ways, birth control has artificially extended the timeline that it takes to go full-blown bloody blood in the street revolution.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, anyways, fembots looks like they're making a push. I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand the appeal. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's already been going on for a while. I mean, because you can't
Yeah,
watch YouTube now without the AI girlfriend being
right.
advertised on every single video. And I've even had some of my students, I overheard them talking about how they have their AI boyfriend.
Yeah,
Um, so it's all over the place.
Hmm,
So
hmm,
yeah.
hmm.
of course they're gonna have this.
Yep, of course. Okay, guys, next topic. This one's controversial, and I'm gonna
Ooh,
have to work around the censors at this platform here, okay? Yay, formerly known as Kanye West, has
it used
released
to be an exciting word. Yay, woohoo!
he released a new single that, well, is being pushed by Fuentes and the White Boys. They're loving Yay right now. Heil Hitler. Heil Hitler, the N-word. Let's just replace, that N-word I'm talking about. We'll replace it with ninja. I'm doing what
Oh,
Michael knows do here,
Michael,
right?
yeah,
don't
Michael
do
knows.
the nose. Don't do the nose.
Heil Hitler ninja. Okay. Okay. We're gonna go with that. I like that one. All
That's cringe, man.
I had a friend call me that one time, like many, many years ago, and I'm going, "Where did ninja come from?" I didn't realize it meant that.
Anyways, So the song was dropped a couple days ago. It's been sweeping social media, guys, and lots of debate back and forth. Again, Michael Knowles says, no, it's not that bad of a song because what Ye is doing is saying, I'm Hitler. I've been driven crazy by the Kardashians. But then you got the Groypers and Fuentes saying, no, 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 no. You look at the history of Ye, he's pro-Hitler, he's pro-Nazi, and it's, hey, basically a certain group of people where I'm having problems with, and he's expressing his grievances there, Anthony.
Why do you always come to me first with this stuff, Frank? I mean, Neil's right there. I mean, go ahead, Neil. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
the German in the room gets the question. Great.
That
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid that problem there. Yeah.
Um, I didn't listen to this song. I only heard about it today because when y'all brought it up. Um, and then I watched what Michael Knowles said, and then I don't, the little clip I listened to, and a little bit I know of this guy who made this. He's changed his name more than once, I think. First off, all rap music is bad, so it's not a good song in that sense. But I got the impression that it's one, he's upset because of the people he's had to deal with in his life. And on top of that, he's been labeled as like this like bad guy now. Because of things he said, as he supported Trump for a while, and then he said some things about certain groups, and now so he's labeled as this the bad guy, right? And I think he's using the word Nazi and Hitler in the same way that people do it online. Like if you're somebody they don't like, you're a Nazi, right? You're Hitler. You know, if you're a Republican, you're a Nazi. You're Hitler. You know that kind of thing. And I think he's using it in that way. And in the song, he's saying, "You fine? You're gonna label me like that? Yeah, that's what I am. I'm Hitler. I'm a Nazi. Then
I'm gonna
I'm
embrace
like
it.
he's just embracing the insult. You know, and it might also be that he's saying, "Well, I'm gonna go full bore at this point." You know, he's saying, "Fine, I'm gonna embrace it all." Okay, you want to see? You think I'm Hitler? You think I'm a Nazi? I'm gonna show you what that is. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I mean, I agree to an extent there. I think it has probably it's probably multifaceted meaning. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, I think the Groypers are right. Everybody that knows Ye's history knows that he's had a conflict with a certain group of people that are in his life in terms of the music industry, lawyers, etc. So I think that yeah, he just looks at the whole thing and he's like, it reminds me of how essentially the black community embraced the N-word, right? Like they made it their thing. Richard Pryor, comedian, other people, kind of popularized that. And I mean, it makes sense to a degree. It defangs your enemy to a certain extent. When the insult that is supposed to really cause a lot of pain for you or make you angry or provide some kind of reaction, no longer you no longer get a reaction. And I think we're seeing the end of Hitler as the perpetual boogeyman that the right wing and the left wing like to use.
Yeah, I agree
Mhm.
with you. I think a more nuanced perspective on that historical figure, it's going down, whether they like it or not. And listen, I believe that's been done on purpose historically, just as World War II has been misrepresented now for 80 years. As far as Ye, I can't really comment much. I just don't know enough about him. I know he's done some strange things. I mean, if he I guess my thing with Ye is this: if he's going to stand up for a certain moral cause, I can respect that. But what doesn't help is when he stands up for a certain moral cause and he speaks out against the mother of his children because they're bad influence, on his kids and how he'd like to get them away from this bad influential mother and this particular family. But then he walks out on the red carpet in Hollywood with his new girlfriend who is butt naked on the runway. It just something's not jiving there. There's, I mean, the morality is kind of screwy there with Ye, and that's the hard part. But in regards to what's happening in Hollywood, that could be true. What he's saying. Listen, Michael Jackson expressed these concerns. The one particular song is "They Don't Really Care About Us." He mentions again a certain group. Now I heard that Prince might have been a victim of this particular group as well too in Hollywood, and of course the problem is control of the music. And what they're saying is in Hollywood or the music industry, it's a strange sort of dichotomy in the sense that the artist never controls his own music. And if they start to negotiate with these producers or these guys that run these music industries, then there will be no reason for them to actually be in existence as artists can go out on their own. So it is a control of the product. It's control of billions of dollars every year. And this is the problem that I think Ye probably has is how he's been trying to be controlled. And so I don't know. I'm not a music expert, guys, but it just I'll say this: Heil Hitler Ninja. It's caught everybody's attention, right?
It's been banned everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you can't
Okay,
mention Hitler's name and then not get banned. So
yeah,
unless you're attacking the right, then you can do it.
yeah. Honestly, I don't even know if we can say it on YouTube. I got to be honest with you, but I've heard it said before, but we'll find
Mm.
out. I guess I don't know. Um, okay, and finally, last story of the day. This is big, guys. Rumors have been floating that Donald Trump has given Benjamin Netanyahu basically the middle finger. He's cut off talks with him. And now Trump apparently is coming out and getting ready to recognize Palestine and negotiate his own treaty deal with them. Guys, Anthony, this is massive if it's true.
Yeah, the reports were saying, I believe, that it was two aides out of the Trump administration, and that were saying that he's basically had enough of this. And I think it provides him with some plausible deniability, which I would want if I were him. There are a lot of radicals uh, within Benjamin Netanyahu's party, but and some actually vocally saying they're trying to take it over. Now, these are many of the Temple Mount groups that are attempting to bring back sacrifice on top of the temple. Some of them are actually trying to get a sacrifice done up there before they even tear down or blow up the other structure. There's a lot of propaganda they're putting out there, blowing up that Muslim temple that's on top of the mount there. And they're increasingly a force to be reckoned with in Israel. And yeah, if Bibi wasn't radical enough with everything he's done, it's just incredible to think that there's larger groups that are really even more radical to a degree. So we'll see what happens. I think that I could see Trump losing patience for sure. I've heard that it was reported that Bill Clinton basically said, who the hell does this guy think he is? Uh, they've wanted our technology. They I forget which fighter jet it was. Neil, maybe you know, but there was a particular fighter jet that came out that they wanted, and we gave them a version that was slightly uh, less capable. And they were like, no, 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 we want yours. And then they were attempting to steal the information. And so, like, this whole idea about them being our greatest ally, it's just not true. And it's really weird to me that we have so many American Protestants that are willing to go along with this whole Temple Mount thing because they're trying to usher in the Jewish people are trying to usher in their Messiah, so It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, so the Protestants see it
Yeah.
as a fulfillment of the revelation of John, the apocalypse, and this kind of stuff. I'm sure they would see it as, oh, this is the signal of the end days and the 1,000 years of peace and this blah 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 and so forth. And so they have their own mythology surrounding this. So I'm sure they'll be all excited about sacrifices on the mount again. I'm sure they have this. For John Hagee's, waking up and getting ready to bring out his dry erase boards to have a wonderful time with it. But
What
it's
is
all
that?
ridiculous.
What does that mean, Neil? Like, why do they not understand that that would be the Antichrist? Do they not get that?
Well, they see from what, and I'm getting this mostly from like when I've watched preachers like Hagee talk on TV about it and everything. Um, they have this idea that the temple will be rebuilt, and once it's rebuilt, then there'll be like 1,000 years of peace because that's part of prophecy and it's supposed to be rebuilt.
Oh, I
And
got you.
we have to help the Jews do that. Um, And but then after that 1,000 years, of course, the enemies of the Jewish people will surround them, and then fire is going to come down and destroy their enemies, and that'll be the end, and the rapture is going to take place. The Antichrist basically is going to come and try and attack Jerusalem is their idea, the Jews. Um, so it's like it's yeah, I know, right? It's like where do you get it?
Oh my
How do
goodness.
you how are you sola scriptura? You get that?
Yeah, for
Um,
real.
well, that's what happens when you open up the personal interpretation. You
Hmm.
get all kinds of stuff.
Well, here's
But
yeah.
if Trump is first off, if I think I would be surprised if Trump had that leaked in order to do a couple of things. One, test the waters to see how people would react to it, to see if he gets support for that. But also so that Netanyahu hears it and the Palestinians here, and kind of like is using that as a way of pushing them to get to solve the problem.
Yeah.
If he does that, we're going to be in trouble. So we better find a treaty or a peace deal or in this war somehow. So I would be surprised if he's using that as a means of getting Israel over there to try and hard and find a solution.
Yeah.
If he follows through with it, I'd be surprised
It's a
because
good
because he started off his first term with, Jerusalem, moving the embassy there, we're
Yeah.
gun ho Jerusalem and that kind of thing. And this would make it look like he's done like almost like a 180. But if he does it, I'd be surprised, but also be kind of happy about it too, because it's like I'm I'm pro cutting off foreign aid to just about everybody.
yeah.
Like I don't want to build up any nation,
Yeah.
Israel included.
Yeah. Here's the issue that I have. I don't know what to make of Trump and the whole question to his relationship with Judaism. Because on one hand, all of his children are married to Jews. And then on the other hand, he took a lot of money from Jews for his campaign. And so what was understood is that he takes this money and we're going to Palestine. That's why what a month ago, whenever it was now, we were talking about building casinos and a giant golden statue of Trump over in the Palestine region. What has happened since then? I don't know. I guess the issue is this. George W. Bush's presidency effectively ended the moment he decided to go to Iraq. It was over. Okay. We were told about yellow cake and weapons of mass destruction. We got bogged down there for 3, 4, 5 years over there. And the American people had enough, not understanding why we went there in the first place. I'm going to tell you right now, if Trump decides to go into an escalated war against Iran, he will get bogged down and his presidency will be over. His domestic
Yeah.
agenda won't matter. None of that crap will matter. He will be known as a war presidency. And I don't think Trump wants to be known as a war president. I think there's kind of a confliction there, Anthony.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. This is precisely why he wants peace, and it's a big conflict that he's going to have with Bibi as they try to continue to expand and take the entire territory because and really go after Iran. Trump is not on board with any of that because he knows he can't get the American economy fixed if that becomes an issue. also, I mean, Israel may think that they're not going to have a threat if they get the United States involved, but really, Iran is a sizable territory. You're not going to go in there with troops and deal with them. And even if you bomb their facilities, all you're doing is turning a state that had an incentive to keep its nuclear program in limbo. All you're doing at that point is encouraging them to go ahead and make some nukes, and they will be able to get it done because they're embedded inside of those mountains. And then we do have real problems here in the States. Then we will actually face a serious threat from Iran at that point.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I,
Go ahead,
I,
Neil.
I mean, but I just it's a difficult situation with because it's like you hear Iran and the surrounding people in that area that that how much they hate us and everything. Plus, it's very Muslim, and they have a tendency to blow things up.
Yeah.
um, so I wouldn't be a fan of them having nukes. Um, at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be involved with every freaking country out there.
See,
It's
yeah, that's
like,
the thing, Neil. That's the thing. Right now, the situation is perfect because they want to stay in limbo. They don't want to make a nuke because they know if they do, we're going to hit them hard.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, like,
Well,
what?
I would hope they do truly understand that if they A, get a nuke and then B, try to use it on one of us or anything,
Yeah.
that we will glass that area at that point. Like that's, and I hope they're like not in favor of that. And the reason I say that is because I know there is a segment of Islam that believes in the 13th Imam, and they
Yes.
believe in order to bring that guy back that they basically have to burn the world. Like they have to force like to get him to return. They basically have to set off the end of the world. So I'm hoping those guys aren't the ones in power, and yeah, we don't want them because
Yeah.
that's suicide. But
I think
you
that's the
know,
argument is that they are in power. So what we get is the threat of we have a madman with his finger on the button. That's the problem we
yeah,
have. And if you follow Mark Levin on Twitter, this guy's gone mad. He's gone crazy over this war, attack now. It's
mhm.
really remarkable. He's a guy I used to watch on Fox, but to listen to him turn to hardcore ad hominem attacks against people that want to say, wait a minute here, another war, another Middle East war. Is this what we really want to do? And he says, no, you guys are the fifth isolationist column, of isolate. I mean, he's calling it a bunch of isolation, being a fifth
Fifth
column.
Well,
column isolationist.
you
Yeah.
Yeah,
know what? On that note, to the Mark Levins of the world, okay, I would say, don't tell me as a Catholic that I'm radical because I want the world to be Catholic. Don't judge my ancestors, my Catholic ancestors, of the Crusaders, right, who went to war and whatnot. Don't look back on them and say, look how horrible they were for killing and going to war and fighting, right? Because look at how anxious you are to destroy entire nations for your beliefs, for your Jewish people, religion, whatever you want to call it, right?
yeah,
See, when it's your little club, whatever you want to call it, all right, all of a sudden war is justified. All of a sudden starving out the Palestinians and killing them is fine. But when it's in the name of Christendom, and by the way, we don't slaughter people like that. We never have. But when we're fighting in defense of ourselves and Christendom, all of a sudden it's the evil crusaders who are
Yeah.
psychopaths. How dare you kill anybody?
yeah.
I
But
mean,
Neil,
it's ridiculous.
we put Galileo to death. So
No, actually, Galileo was treated very fairly, by the way.
yeah, but he was
I
put
Yeah.
get
to
that a
death.
lot. He was on house arrest in like a mansion with a butler, and he was allowed to leave and go outside, by the way.
Yeah,
All right. Don't get me on the Galileo thing. I've listened to quite a bit about Galileo. All right. I had a professor who tried to say, oh, the church treated him so bad. Bull. That man was treated good. Okay. he was a nutbag at the time. We saw that because the science of the day did not agree with the theory at the time that could not be proven. That's a whole other thing. He get me on the thing now, man.
Well, all right. Well, it's a sticky situation without a doubt. A sticky situation Americans want to stay out of, and so I don't know what to say. It's just a very interesting turn of events. I hope it's real. I hope it's not a bunch of behind the scene backdoor psyop kind of a thing. Because listen, I think, and we'll wrap it up here, guys. He's got to be hearing it from his base, Trump, that the Republican Party, the Populist Party, it doesn't want another war in the Middle East. Again, nobody's ever apologized for the Iraq War. Nobody ever has, right? And and ultimately, at the end of the day, he's going to lose his base. I saw this poll again. It's unscientific, but Charlie Kirk, Mr. Pro-Zionist himself, had a poll asking whether we should go to war with Iran. Over 2/3 on his own sort of Twitter page said no, we don't want to go to war. They were saying no, no, no.
Yeah. Let him put on the battle rattle. Let him go. Let him suit up. Him and Mark Levin both.
Yeah.
My brother, he fought in the invasion in Iraq, and nothing is going to bring back his friends that committed suicide. Nothing's going to bring back his friends that died in that war. And then you find out about the yellow cake and all this other bull crap, and it's like, no, we're not doing this again, buddy.
Yeah, well, what the classical liberal response to that would be, Anthony, is, sometimes the world is a mean and nasty place, and sometimes we as Americans got to go around the world and punch somebody in the face.
And when they say we, they mean send your family. They mean they're not going.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, for too. And here's the thing too, when they do say that, you notice they're willing to say that in the pursuit of liberty and the nation. But it's like if I say that in support of Christendom, I'm a psychopath.
yeah, exactly. And two, the other thing too is that we play this trick in the West. We say how when we invade another nation and bomb the living crap out of them, we also drop food at the same time because we're so kind and compassionate. See, we don't colonialize anybody. We've never done that. Yeah, but wait a minute. But our corporations sure as hell are going in there after the war and playing a role to help them rebuild. Now, the American taxpayers and the soldiers that died and were maimed ultimately in those wars, we get nothing as an end result for that Iraq war, for example. But the corporations that had to rebuild Iraq, oh, they have some nice little gigs. You know what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, look, we are so intertwined with every other nation economically and done so on purpose. So that they need us to survive and we need them to survive. Like we've got it set up to where it's like, well, you can't attack us because if you do, our economies are so linked, you'd be destroying yourselves economically, kind of thing. But it's a double-edged sword there because we're also now dependent on people who are freaking, nuts. It's like, and on top of that, we're such a freaking pagan society.
Yeah.
And it's just, I can understand if we were having a good Catholic influence on the world. But instead, we're being converted, not them, not us converting them,
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, tell me that, you're not tell me that you're a colonialist without telling me that you're a colonialist. Yeah. I mean, we just changed the definition and how we operate in modern times, in modern banking, with modern corporations, ultimately at the end of the day. And I think that's what I think a lot of people miss because the propaganda for the classical liberals has worked very well. And again, going back to the Iraq War, no apologies, nothing.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're too big. We're too big. I think we're too big of a nation. I think when this whole idea of like republicanism works with smaller nations. Like when we started out, we were basically separate little nations, but with a treaty with each other.
It has to be
the United States.
Yeah, it has to be
but
small
now
and homogenous.
Well, yeah, we've grown so big and we're trying to spread even more. And it's like, that's why there's so much corruption. And basically, we're like wage slaves, basically, at this point, because it's grown so large.
Well, I think, who was it? One of the Greek philosophers, I think. Democracy only works for small, homogenous societies.
Hmm.
And we're
Yeah.
anything but homogenous at this point. And so, that's why our political system is so corrupt. So I really don't know what to say about that. It's just interesting turn of events. I just hope it's real. Let's put it that way. I hope we're not all being BS. Okay, guys. Final thoughts of the night. Anthony.
Um, wow, that was fast. My final thoughts are let's pray for the new Holy Father that the Holy Spirit guides him and we really see a significant change for the better in the church, that he heals wounds and that he takes care of business that needs to be taken care of internally in the church as well.
I'll add to that he needs to be protected. Um, he needs protection from those who are surrounding him. I think he's surrounded by, I mean, assuming he's not one of them, he's surrounded by his enemies. And I pray that those who are counseling him and those who are Masons are done away with, like expelled, exorcised from our church, or converted um, as quickly as possible, and that those who are Orthodox and faithful to our Lord surround him and counsel him, and he takes that counsel. He's open to that.
Okay, fair enough. I think, choosing the name Pope Leo the 14th, of course, coming on the heels of Pope Leo the 13th, who was a great pope, by the way, and a pope that wrote a lot about the problems of modern industrial society in a post-industrial era of civilization, trying to deal with sort of the balance of workers and capital, and a lot of the problems that were presented in terms of the economy. Pope Leo the 14th says we have the same similar problem with AI and technology today, and that's why he feels he needs to deal with that, and that's why he chose that name, Pope Leo the 14th. And I think there is some serious moral qualms. I mean, fembots. We talked about those earlier. If you have an affair with a fembot, is that a sin? They don't have.
Yeah.
It'd be it's called self-abuse.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
fair enough.
Well, it's the M word that no one wants to say, but
Self-abuse is accurate.
Okay, there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I want to thank my friends Anthony and Neil for joining me on this roundtable edition of the Knights of Christendom. This is Frank signing off. Talk to you next time. Good night, everybody.